here with Sandy Graves at Seahead LLC, making composting toilets, and he has told me that this is one of the coolest composting toilet systems you will ever see. So, how does it work?
Well, basically it is a urine diverting toilet, and it is part of a composting system. The toilet itself produces a compostable waste material, and it does it by initially when you sit down and go to the bathroom, it divides up the material at the point of use.
All right.
So the solid waste goes in.
Solid waste in the back here.
That's right.
And then urine diversion in the front.
That's right.
Okay.
And from there, when you're done, you take this handle and you insert it in there and you turn it about 15 times. And what that does is this right here. Now, you have to use your imagination a little bit. There's a whole series of different mediums that you can use that are very effective. You're not just limited to peat moss and cocoa coir.
It buries it.
It does what a cat does. It basically covers the outside surface. And the advantage of this over a system where you add material all the time is that it takes a lot less material to do the job, and it covers the waste much more completely. So then that's really the essence of what prevents the smell. Basically, you're smelling it because moisture is evaporating off the surface. It's just like I tell people when their dog goes to the bathroom in the yard, you smell it till it dries out, and then you don't smell it again until you step in it, and
desiccates.
It slows the moisture again. So basically what this does is wicks the moisture off the surface immediately, and so you have no smell.
What a great idea. And you invented this system?
Yes, I did.
Wow. And actually made a business out of it.
Yes, I did. The first one was built for our boat. I was building a dinghy in Beaufort, South Carolina, had some material left over and decided to experiment. And it looks a little different than this one, but the concept was basically the same, and it worked so well I just decided to go ahead and start building them. And basically, this is the Boone John model right here. It comes with a set of plans to make this docking cabinet. This cabinet costs about $30 in materials, including the paint.
That's very nice.
And
it's nice to get the beadboard.
On the side, you can store your canisters of material that you add.
And so you could, yeah, I guess if you had access to sawdust, you could use sawdust.
That's right.
If you happen to have any kind of shreddings or anything, you could use that. You could probably use shavings.
Right. As a matter of fact, some of the stuff I've loaded up, this right here is red oak shavings from a cabinet shop. It works perfectly. You can get it for free. This is cypress shavings. This is one of my very, very favorite, only you have to live near a cypress mill to get it. Then, of course, we have, this is cat litter. It's a little more expensive. You can buy it at Walmart, but it works very, very well.
And that's also, oh, it's corn cob.
Right,
corn cob cat litter, so it's actually compostable.
You want to use only a carbon-based material, right? You don't want to use clay-based medium. And down here, this is hamster bedding. This is pine shavings. It works perfectly well. And then the
it smells nice too.
Ubiquitous pine pellets. These you reconstitute with a little bit of water. It doesn't take very much, and it converts to sawdust.
Oh wow!
So really, there's a
and then that's peat moss here.
Right, that's peat moss. And this is a 3 cubic foot bale of peat moss. Costs about $15. That will last you 2 years for 2 people using the toilet every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's probably cheaper than the water you'd end up flushing away over that time period.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have to deal with when you're dealing with codes and that sort of thing? Are you able to get approval?
Well, basically, it depends from area to area what the codes are. We sell them all over the world, so you know it's hard to give a hard fast example of what is permitted and what isn't. Keep in mind that this is basically designed as a portable toilet system, and you can use it anywhere. You can use a portable toilet like a porta potty. But if you're going to use it on a more permanent basis, you probably would want to try and get it through your code enforcement. And people should understand that just because they say no, that doesn't mean no. You need to go back and present your case, explain to them, and there's lots and lots of good reasons why this is a better system. So if you could, and people need to do that so that we can get this kind of thing acceptable, you know.
Right. So from, say you're, I mean, how people have used the toilet, you've filled it up in here, and then you've got to take it out and do a secondary. Right. There's got to be a composting after that point.
Well,
and that's I think where the code people freak out.
Right. Well, they don't understand some very, very simple principles. There's basically two principles involved in managing your waste safely. One of them is don't get it in your water, and the other one is don't mix it with other people's waste, because you're not going to give yourself any diseases you don't have. Now, you can't.
Right.
You can get salmonella, but you can get salmonella from chicken and all kinds of things. That's just a matter of washing your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's different ways you can handle your waste. Composting is only one of them. You can reduce them using black soldier flies. You can dehydrate and burn them. You can convert them to biochar. There's just all sorts of things that you can do if you want to use your waste in a permaculture type system.
Yeah.
So, even though it produces a compostable waste, it produces a waste that you can manage a lot of different ways.
This is fantastic. Do you have any secondary composting going on here?
Not here. I have a place where I experiment, and I have all kinds of composting methods going on that are all working very well. Black soldier flies are really remarkable, and they, to me, people would be amazed how much waste you actually produce. It's a lot more than you can use, and some of it, if you're trying to restrict it to your property, if you're trying to do a closed loop system, then soldier flies provide a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? A really good method.
They're like a primary composter. They tear it up so fast.
Well, they convert it into flies and fly away. And that's literally, they will reduce it as fast as your composting reduces, the black soldier flies will reduce it. So you just keep this growth going, your compost rises at the same level your waste does, okay?
Yeah.
And the nice thing about soldier flies, one of the many nice things about them is that they have no digestive tract, so they don't fly away looking to land on your food. They don't come in your house. They live just long enough to lay eggs and die. So they're not a disease vector. So basically,
that's marvelous.
They land on your waste, they eat it, they lay eggs, the eggs eat it, they turn into flies, and your waste flies away.
That's perfect.
That's the nut of it. Exactly.
That's so much better than throwing it through the city system. You've got perfect pure water going into the toilet, which could have been used for drinking, but instead it's used to flush away a small amount of waste, which then has to be sent, to a centralized system and strained out and taken out, or it goes into your septic tank, which then you have to maintain and plumb. I mean, I would much rather see it go back into the soil. We used a real simple composting toilet system for over a year in Tennessee, which was just a sawdust bucket type toilet.
Right.
We never had any trouble with it. We let it age out for a year in the backyard, and then we grew beautiful trees and vegetables and everything on it, and I was thinking, man, you never have enough compost.
Right.
I mean, this is
one of the advantages of urine diversion over just mixing it is you get to use your urine immediately.
Right.
You get to take the urine and you can dilute it with water and use it as a fertilizer from day one. Okay. It also helps tremendously in reducing the amount of smell. And even if you succeed in reducing the smell by adding a lot of material, basically what you're dealing with is glop when you mix it together.
Yeah, and it's very heavy.
And the time you transfer it from the bucket to the compost tower, it's not a pleasant,
It's not a pleasant experience. That's true. You've made this really as simple and easy as, I mean, there's not much more you're doing here compared to what you would normally do in a house anyways for maintaining a regular toilet.
I do have an accessory called an external urine diverter, which takes the place of the gallon jug, and that basically allows the urine to flow into a tank outside of the toilet. And you can store it in a larger tank and have access to it there rather than having to bother with emptying a gallon jug all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And simple. I like it. So this is you've got them for boats, for land, and I mean, how many models do you have?
Oh, I've got it's a lot. I've got the box and the bucket, which are two different fundamental shapes. One of them is 8-sided, one of them is 4-sided.
Okay.
That's mostly for boats, and also I have some cutaway versions and some other modified footprints. But the average person for any other use other than boats can usually wind up just using what I call the box model. It's the largest and least expensive. Okay,
so what's the best place for people to go to find these toilet systems? What would be your website, or where should I send them?
The website is www.c-head.com, c-head.com.
All right.
And if you Google C-Head or Boone John, either one, you'll get a lot of information and links.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for showing me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Glad to finally catch up.
Yeah, I've been looking for you to come around. I've been looking to see you at your place too. So.
Yeah, thank you.
This is what I call my Boone John garden. It's basically designed so that I can process the waste here and use it as fertilizer. I have a stout fence around the perimeter because we're in bear country, and the bears come through here regularly, and they like to help themselves to whatever's available. So that's the main reason behind the big fence. Plus, because of what I'm doing here, I like to kind of keep it private.
Right. This is beautiful. Nice guava here.
Yeah, this is I had this actually out in the yard, and I wound up moving it. I had it in the wrong place. A guy told me that if you put it where it's windy, it won't produce fruit. So it'll be somewhere out of the wind. So I'm planning on moving it eventually. But what I do, this is a series of composting towers, and I have basically, this is where I start all my coarse vegetation off. This is where I use recycled soil, potting soil, and all that for when I'm potting plants. And
oh yes.
And then this also this. At times, I actually kind of rotate these around. During the fall, I get a lot of leaves, fall and winter, and I will build a compost tower with nothing but leaves, and I'll take those later on and mix them with my grass clippings during the spring and summer, so that I get my mixture of my nitrogen and carbon. But this is how I get my soldier flies started. And basically, take a 5-gallon bucket, take 2 of them, cut the bottom off of one, cut some holes so the flies can go in. Put a sponge or something in here where they can lay their eggs. They're very smart. They don't lay their eggs in the rotting waste because they'll get eaten. So when the larvae hatch here, they fall into the mix, and that's why the soldier flies help control housefly population. And the way they do it is the houseflies will go directly in here and lay their eggs, and then when the soldier flies fall in, the soldier flies will eat their eggs, and they never develop.
Oh my goodness!
So they're really, really good at helping to control.
They're beneficial on more levels than I realized.
Yeah, you can feed them. Also, there's a source of feed for fish and for, see, they're starting. There's the beginning of the soldier flies right there. But the larvae themselves will self-harvest, and they're a great source of food for fish and for chickens, because they're high in protein and high in fat.
What do you mean by self-harvest?
Well, when they go to pupate, the larva will climb out of the pit. So if you design a system where they have an easy way out, they will climb out the easy way and fall right into buckets. And you basically set buckets down there. If you go online and look up black soldier flies on YouTube, there's just tons of information about them. They're really amazing. But you just put some containers in there with a little bit of sawdust in the bottom, and as soon as they hit that, they'll bore down to the bottom and hide until they turn into flies.
Wow.
And then you can either take them and use them, like I said, as feed, or you can just let them harvest as flies, and they'll keep repopulating the area. So
it's marvelous.
And this is a finished composting tower. This has a core. The waste goes in here and creates a core. This one has a core of waste coming all the way up, then it's capped off with leaves and all, and then I let it sit for a year. And then I'll let the worms come up from the bottom. They'll start devouring everything, and then I will just mix everything up. Now, I use this strictly for growing sweet potatoes. And the reason I do that is, for one thing, you have to cook sweet potatoes. So even a year later, it's perfectly safe. I have absolutely no doubt. But even if it wasn't, sweet potatoes, you have to cook them to eat them. And they will grow in anything. And plus, sweet potatoes provide a vine that the soldier flies really like. Because once they hatch and turn into a fly, they look for a leaf. And they lie on the underside of a leaf and wait for a mate.
Oh, wow.
So the whole system just kind of all ties together. You know?
Yes, you've got habitat for them as adults, and you've got habitat for them as larvae. And
you create an environment that they really like, and they'll be your best friend. They really help you out. You know?
Really, and we get a good probably 8 months of soldier fly activity here in Florida, I would guess.
Yep.
Except for when it's very cool.
Right. Yeah, starting usually at the beginning of April, you can start reproducing them, and they will go all the way. If you can keep where they're at relatively warm, they'll go well into December.
Wow.
As far as a source of being able to have stuff consumed, you know. So, and then this is another tower over here. This one is just leaves and grass clippings, and also kitchen table scraps.
And you're just using foam to keep it warm and moist
right,
underneath.
To keep some of the rain off of it so it doesn't get too wet. And there happens to be a guy here in the neighborhood who gives that foam away. So
perfect. It's all recycled. Recycle everything.
That's right.
There's some awesome tomatoes there. Look at that.
Yeah, we've had tomatoes kind of hit or miss, but we're getting better at it, you know. And like I said, if you have trouble with tomato plants, you notice that the blight tends to come up from the bottom.
Right.
And I found that if I take the duckweed out of the canals and do a really good mulch job, it prevents a lot of that blight from making its way up. I don't know why exactly, but it definitely seems to work.
It's probably because it's creating an active environment for other bacteria. And the more bacteria you add to a system, the more it's good at destroying certain strains that may just attack plants. Like you could take compost tea and spray it on blighted apple plants and actually cure some of the blight issues, because the extra, just like actually if you have a cut that won't heal properly and it gets infected, you can put yogurt on it.
Oh, wow.
And just add a little more competition for the bugs, the bad guys. It's looking good.
These are soybeans over here, but they haven't come up yet. I just planted them. During the summertime, it's okra, soybeans, long beans. Just a few things that we really can grow a lot of. Everything just is too hot for everything else.
Well, I like that you put your compost right next to your gardens too. I tell people to do that all the time. Put your compost right where you can put it, right in the garden. Don't put your compost pile at the back corner of your yard where you're never going to see it.
Right. So,
thanks.
The other thing too, if you get these right here, this system I want to show you, this is how you use your urine as fertilizer. Basically, this one's not piped, but you still get the idea. You take that short section of pipe, let me grab it real quick, and insert it in here, and then I pour about a half a gallon of urine in here. And as you can see, I got a 5-gallon container of it right here. That's that I've gotten from.
It's the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the longer it sits, the better it gets.
I know that the Swedish system, they'll let it sit at least 6 months or so before they use it. I've read that.
Well, you put a half a gallon in here, and then you go ahead and fill this all the way up with water. And once it gets to the top, you pull this thing out, and it basically will run down the line. This is it has almost only pressure on it is the head pressure from the bucket itself.
So it's just leaking down there. You're actually,
you don't have to use any glue. You can rearrange it anytime you want. Pull it apart.
You're fertigating the system.
Is that what they call it?
Yep, fertilizer irrigation. Oh, that's what Steve Solomon calls it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much describes it, right? That lets me control.
What a great idea!
Lets you use up the urine and control how much the plants get, and it puts it right at the base, so you don't. It's not splashing up, you know, and doesn't burn the plant or anything. Yeah. So.
Right in the root zone where they can use it.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly grows some beautiful tomatoes, that's for sure. Great idea. Thank you for showing me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.